Hey guys, it's Lisa, and today I have my July wrap-up and my August TBR. In the month of July, I went ahead and read 15 books, which is a great reading month for me. Not that I have many bad ones. I know in the month of June I only read 3, so this kind of makes up for it. The first book that I went ahead and read was White Trash Beautiful by Teresa Mummet. I think I'm saying that correctly. This is the first book in a trilogy, and I think it's a trilogy, I'm not too sure, but so far. First book is about Cass and Tucker. Cass is the girl from the wrong side of the tracks, and Tucker is this rock star on the rise. It was an interesting story. I love Tucker. I love that he tried everything to make Cass happy, especially with the cards that she was dealt, and I did go ahead and give it 5 out of 5 stars. The second book that I read was White Trash Damaged, which is the second book in the series, and this continues Tucker's and Cass's story. There was some events that happened in the first book that they are trying to deal with and being together and being a couple, and I loved it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Book 3 was A Song for Us, which is the third book in this trilogy slash series. I'm not too sure. I haven't really looked it up. But this changes characters. You still get pieces of Tucker and Cass, which I enjoyed. I'm not going to ruin it if nobody's read it yet, but I think this is a series that people should read. In this book, we follow Eric and Sarah. We meet Eric and Sarah in the first book. Eric is in the band with Tucker. Sarah is a singer of a band that is touring alongside Tucker's band. Eric and Sarah have always had this thing, but they never really acted on it, and they are both heavily scarred by certain situations that have happened in their past. So I love to see them kind of grow and forgive themselves and each other, and I thought it was such a beautiful story, and I went ahead and gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I did read a lot of rocker type stories. I just fell in love with the concept in the White Trash trilogy that I went ahead and moved on to read The Mighty Storm, and it is by Samantha Towle. This story follows True and Jake. Jake is part of this world famous band called The Mighty Storm, and True is a writer. She writes about music. Jake and True grew up as next door neighbors since the age of like 7 or 8, 6, 7, 8, somewhere around there. And at the age of 14, he moves from the UK to America because of his mom marrying someone else, and they move away. At the beginning of it, they kind of stayed really close to each other, and then little by little, like, Jake just kind of tore himself away from True, and they have this interview that True has to do with Jake, and she's kind of not sure whether he's going to remember her or not. She's surprised that he does, and it just begins this whirlwind kind of situation with them. I mean, True has a boyfriend at the time, so you can just imagine all the trouble she gets herself into. I love this book. I love the sarcasm. I love the romance of it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. And because I fell in love with Jake, I went ahead and got the second book, which is called Wethering the Storm. In this book, we are still following True and Jake. True is trying to see how she can survive Jake's world because it is totally different than the normal Joe kind of life that she was living beforehand. There are some situations that they get into, and trying to see Jake deal with those, trying to see Jake with his jealousy. I just enjoyed the parts where he was so jealous. So I didn't want him to be jealous because I didn't want them to fight, but oh my god, I thought it was the sexiest thing in the world. And I did go ahead and give it 5 out of 5 stars. I picked up the third book in this series, and that is Taming the Storm. In the story, we go ahead and swap characters. We go ahead and have Tom Carter, who is part of the Mighty Storm. He is the playboy, the one that is never gonna settle down, is always giving Jake crap about being in a relationship and everything like that. And Lila. Lila is a new act that has been signed to Jake's label. Something happens with their tour manager that Tom has to kind of step in. Tom and Lila have a couple of run-ins with each other where Tom's kind of hitting on her and she's like, no. There's reasons why Lila is jaded, and when I read what it was, because it happens very, very early in the book, I was like, WTF. I was so intrigued. I wanted to know what was going to happen next, and I was not disappointed. I want more books about this band, so I'm happy to hear that the author is considering doing it, or that she is going to do it, but it's just going to take some time, so I can't wait for that to happen. And of course, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. After finishing that book, booktube-a-thon started, and originally these are the books that I went ahead and chose for the booktube-a-thon. And sad to say, I did not read these. Well, that's not necessarily true. I started and I read about 10 pages of this book, and then I just stopped because it was Sunday, it was 9 o'clock at night, and I really wanted to see True Blood, and I knew that after I watched it, I was gonna probably go to sleep, so that's why. But I did read these books, and I also read this book, part of the booktube-a-thon. This is going to satisfy starting and finishing the series, as well as paranormal romance, a genre that I had least read this year. And the first book was Nightborn by Lynn Viehl. I loved going back into this world so much that I really wanted to pick up The Darken again and read it for the 3rd time, because I've already read it twice. This book, I did go ahead and give it 5 out of 5 stars. Basically, in the story, Corval is sent out by Richard, who is like the High Lord of all of the vampires in the series, to go ahead and find this relic that at this point, or at the beginning of the book, you don't know what the heck this relic does, but he needs to go get it. There's also Simone, who is part of the story, who is the human aspect of this world, who is also there to protect the relic. And there's a lot of twists and turns, a lot of secrets, a lot of action, not just sexy time action, but like physical fighting action, and I loved it. Book 2 is Nightbred, and this book follows Jamie Durand. In this book, they are still kind of looking for the relic because something happened in book 1 that Corval wasn't able to get his hands on it. Richard thinks it's a smart idea to send out this mass call saying that whoever finds it gets like all this property or something like that, or Ireland, I think is what he said. So Jamie is on the hunt to find it because he feels that that's the only way that he'll be able to get his girl. Chris Lang is someone who grew up in the streets, had never really had a family until she met Sam and Lucian, that's his name. They basically build this family for Chris, and Chris has tried everything to become kind of like a servant to these vampires, that they protect their secret and kind of help them maneuver through the human world. But Chris has this huge crush on Jamie, or she's in love with him, and she's going to help him find these relics. And there is more action, more intrigue, more romance, and in true Lynn Viehl fashion, you're gonna get like 3 storylines going on at once, but they all blend together and there's a purpose to them, and that's kind of what I love about paranormal romance, that sometimes you get all of these little stories that kind of make up this whole big picture. So I did enjoy it, loved it, 5 out of 5 stars. Nightbound is book 3. This is the final one in this trilogy. This book follows Bo Maris, I think. I just called him Bo because I could not pronounce his name, and Alice Stewart. These 2 characters I have never met before. In this story, they're still looking for the relic, and they find out the mystery of this relic, in case you're wondering. It doesn't kind of leave you wanting in the other books because of the other storylines that are going on and the things that happen and the things that get resolved. In this one, there's a lot of secrets that, even secrets that you didn't even like know about or kind of get hinted about. And it was amazing, and I liked that they found the relics. I liked that there was a wedding. I loved someone's proposal, and it's not the main characters. They're characters that, of course, I met a long time ago, and it just makes me want to pick up the Darken World so bad. 5 out of 5 stars. Nightshine is book 4 in the Kindred series. This is a spin-off of the Darken. This is actually the first spin-off, and the Lords of the Darken is the second spin-off, but this one is more of the humans that were tested on. They were trying to make them superhuman so that by the church so that they could fight. I don't want to say the church. I should say a secret society that uses the church as a cover to fight the vampires is what it is. And in Nightshine, there's so much that is going on that I don't want to ruin it. It was slow at times. I did enjoy getting to know Sam and Charlie. I had heard bits and pieces about them because they were very secretive. They had like this chat that they would talk to each other on, so they had like special names so that they were never be discovered by Gen Corp, who was trying to find them to test on them. I enjoyed it. I was kind of freaked out by the island, and if anybody's ever read the book or ever reads it, they'll understand what I mean. But I love that I finally got Michael, and I was like, oh my god, I should have read this book like ages ago, and I would have just gotten pieces of Michael. But I love the epilogue of this story. I gave it 4.5 stars because of Michael. If Michael wouldn't have shown up, I would have given it 4 stars. But I did enjoy it, and I'm happy that I finally finished this spinoff. So after unsuccessfully finishing the booktube-a-thon, I went ahead and went back to the book that I was going to pick up the day before booktube-a-thon started. I was still wanting to satisfy my rocker storyline stuff. I don't know what to call it. Obsession? Great word. My obsession. I went ahead and picked up Rock the Heart by Michelle A. Valentine. The reason why is that one of my Goodread buddies that I follow says that this story reminds them of The Mighty Storm, and I love The Mighty Storm, so I wanted to go ahead and read it. This is considered the Black Falcon series, and the Black Falcon is the name of the band. The main people in this book are Lane or Laney and Noel Falcon. Noel is the singer to the Black Falcons, and Laney, or Lane as Noel likes to call her, is in the advertising world. Noel and Lane grew up living next to each other. They were high school sweethearts. When graduation came around, Lane wanted to go to college while Noel wanted to pursue his career in music and was kind of selfish about it. You know, he didn't really put Lane first, or didn't even let Lane consider the fact of going to college, and she really, really wanted to go to college, so she ended things with him. And you kind of fast forward 4 years later, they meet because of her advertising company trying to gain some sort of contract with him about promoting something. Her boss at first doesn't really know that Lane and Noel have a history together, and Noel does everything to be an ass to her, but at the same time you can tell that he still has feelings for her. So he comes up with this ridiculous idea for them to get the campaign, like she has to go on tour with him for 2 weeks. Emotions are high, tension, there's intrigue, you know, you get to meet the other bandmates. You know, there's an issue between Noel and Riff, who is the lead guitarist. And they have some friction between each other because of a certain situation that I'm not going to go ahead and ruin, but you can probably guess what it is. You know, you get to see Lane and Noel reconnect, and you know, there's these surprises, and I enjoyed it, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I moved on to the novella, which is 1.5, which is Rock the Band, which you're still following Noel and Lane and them trying to be together and some surprises, and I loved it because I loved it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. 2 is Rock My Bed, and this follows Riff and Audrey. She's Lane's best friend, and her and Riff have this little thing for like a weekend together. Audrey is attracted to the bad boys. She kind of already knows that this is the norm. Like, she knew getting with Riff was her way of having like a last hurrah before she settles down and finds, Mr. Lawyer, accountant, doctor, whatever her parents would approve of, and, move to the suburbs and have 2.5 children and, everything of that nature. They go on this rocky road of being together, and I loved it. I love getting to know Riff better, like getting to know what his issues were, getting under his skin, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I moved on to the novella, which is 2.5, which is Rock My World, and this still follows Riff and Aubrey. Aubrey is taking Riff home to meet the parents, but there's another motive of why she's going home, and I'm not going to say what because then it's going to ruin some of the ending of book 2, but if you ever read it, you'll know what I'm talking about, like why she's going home, like what that is about. And there are issues, tension runs high, their parents don't think Riff is good enough, there is jealousy. I mean, there's still Riff trying to trust people, letting people in. A tragedy hits, and then there's a surprise, and it's just wonderful. And I love, because it's only like 10 chapters, I think, but I love the last chapter because of what happens in it, and I went ahead and gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I then moved on to Rock the Beat, which is book 3, and this book follows Trip. He is one of the triplets. No, he's one of the twins that are in the band. He is the drummer of the Black Falcon. He notices that everybody is starting to settle down and make lives for themselves, like Noel and Riff. So he feels like he knows that being a musician doesn't mean it's going to be something that will always be there. He knows that with the snap of your fingers, it can be taken away. So he's trying to find other ventures to kind of support himself. And he goes for the thing that he's interested about, which is like adrenaline. So he looks into this motocross arena practice area. I don't know what the right words are for it. So he goes to this place in Arizona to check it out to see if, he wants to invest. But he goes there pretending that he is there because the person that wants to invest sent him, when in reality it's himself. He loves that no one recognizes who he is, and he gets to meet Holly, who is the owner's daughter, and there is so much going on, and this book is not that big. I love how Trip stood up for Holly. I love that he helped Holly get past her breakup with her ex-boyfriend, and I felt super bad for the things that happened to her best friend. I was so devastated for her when she found out her father's secret, and the things that she had to deal with her mother. Like, I sympathize with her. I truly enjoyed the book and can't wait for the final one, which will follow Tyke, which is the last member of the band. But I did go ahead and give this book 4.5 stars. So those are the 15 books that I read. Well, technically, I started this book on July 31st, but I finished it. Sorry, but I finished it on August the 1st, but I will go ahead and include it. So technically I read 16 books, and that book is Maybe Someday by Colleen Hoover. I read this book along with my bestie, Sharon, over at Magnificent Books, and see, look, I have tabs too. I don't have as many as you because I only have 3. But anyways, this book was amazing. I love the companionship of the music that is involved with this story. And the story follows Sydney and Ridge. Sydney is dealing with betrayal from her boyfriend and her best friend, and Ridge is trying to get through some writer's block and trying to be a friend to Sydney when they've only known each other for like 3 weeks. And this journey that they go through, dealing with emotions and issues, and the music that comes along with it just touched my heart. I truly enjoyed it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I agree with Sharon. This is one of the best books of 2014 for me. I love Colleen Hoover. Like, there's always something with Colleen Hoover's books. I mean, I was crying at work. Chapter 17 had me crying at work. My receptionist was looking at me like I was crazy. But I don't regret it. I loved it, and I can't wait for the next Colleen Hoover book, which is Ugly Love, that comes out tomorrow, August the 5th, or maybe today by the time this posts. So those are the books that I went ahead and read. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!